Hails and well met, and welcome to my Dankest Dungeon. I'm your host, Mally Nim, and today within these dank walls I bring you a segment I like to call Dankest Dialogue. A show where I interview ttrpg actual play creators to nerd out about their campaigns and more. Today I am joined by Atsumori Kofuhara. Hail, Atsu. Welcome to my Dankest Dungeon. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello. My name is Atsumori Kofuhara. You can call me Atsu. I am a retro variety streamer and Karate Catman VTuber.
Thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I hope you're having a most excellent day.
Thank you. I am indeed.
So, start us off from the beginning. How were you introduced to TTRPGs and how did you become a dungeon master?
So I'm one of those older guys. I turned 40 this year, and I got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons when I was 10 years old. So back in 1995. And I mean, do you want the whole story?
As much as you're willing to divulge, and as a fellow 40 member, welcome to the 40 Club.
VTubers on 40, let's go!
Yeah.
So, I was a kid, and I saw my cousin-in-law was playing this game, right? He had these books, and they're really, really wild and awesome, and the art just like gripped me, and I was like, what are these books? And he didn't want to play the game with me. I mean, you know, the guy was like 14 years older than me, so he was in his mid-20s. I was 10, you know. Nobody wants to play with a kid like that. So I went to my parents, and I was like, hey, do you know about this like Dungeons and Dragons thing? And they're like, oh yeah, we used to play back in the 80s. Here, have our books. So I inherited a whole bunch of first edition AD&D books that I started pouring through obsessively and reading them, you know, month after month and year after year. When I hit high school, I found my own group of, you know, like-minded, you know, people to play with, and it all started from there. So I knew the most of the rules. I was the one most passionate about playing. So of course I settled into the role of the dungeon master, and it went on from there. I did a little bit in college. I didn't really game too much in college. It wasn't until I want to say about 2010, 2011 that I really got back into it, when I discovered the Pathfinder Society. It was this like big, huge, worldwide organized play group. And I immediately jumped into that because I saw it for what it was. It was an excellent way to put your finger on the pulse of the gaming community, right? To be a centralized figure for gaming in the community. And I knew I was about to move from where I was living to where I'm living now. And I knew to get the people I wanted to play with, I'd have to meet everybody. And the best way to meet everybody is to become an officer in the Pathfinder Society. So that's what I did. And I was a venture captain in the Pathfinder Society for 10 years. And that brings us pretty much to the modern day. I stopped being a venture captain about 5 years ago, and I started VTubing 3.5 years ago. And I thought that with VTubing, I wouldn't have any time to run any games. I was willing to sacrifice that part of my life to make VTubing work. You know what I mean? Because when you're VTubing, you got to do it like, you know, 3 to 4 times a week. You got to be regular. You got to be like a TV show. You've got to be reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, connecting with a whole bunch of people who also wanted to play D&D. I still wanted to run games, and I wanted to show my flavor, my way, my style of running games. And so I started streaming games. and that was about 2 years ago.
Nice, nice. We'll get into the streaming, but yeah, that's so cool that your parents were into D&D. When I brought up D&D to my mom, she said that's the devil's game.
So, funny thing is, my mother also said that. She's like, yes, it's the devil's game. Here, have the books.
Oh, jealous. And real quick about... Oh, go ahead.
I can't name any names, but my parents lived in Baltimore, Maryland when we grew up. And they actually played D&D with a Catholic priest who had been, selected by the bishop of the Archdiocese of Baltimore in the mid 80s to investigate this Dungeons and Dragons thing, because they were absolutely sold on the idea that people were summoning demons. And so the priest performed an investigation, and he knew that my mother, who was part of the parish, played this game, and he wanted to sit in and watch one of their sessions. And he was kind of weirded out when they were like, yeah, sure, okay, we play on Friday nights. And he shows up and they're like, hey, you want to play cleric? So he actually started playing games with him, and that's how he made his full report. Beautiful
story. I love that. Speaking of Pathfinder Society, do you remember what your first module you ran?
The first module I ran, oh my goodness, I'd have to look it up, but it's in season 1. It was going into an ancient dwarven vault. I picked it because it was really interesting. It was a very good mix of like very cool, very vibrant dungeon, characters to interact with, a boss fight that was difficult. It was more like a puzzle boss fight than anything else. I can't remember the name of it though.
That's all right. I thought it'd be fun to reminisce on the old Pathfinder Society days.
But yeah, it was definitely like season 1, number 37, I want to say. But I can't remember the name.
I did play a little bit of Pathfinder Society, but not enough that one rings a bell.
Okay.
So, from parents indoctrinating you into D&D to Pathfinder Society to VTubing and streaming and then creating actual plays, tell us about these actual plays.
So like I said, I wanted to run games, but I didn't want to run Dungeons and Dragons at that time. I enjoyed the 2014 5th edition rules for what they were. But there are so many wonderful, beautiful games out there. One of which, so this is how you and I met. We met through our love of Shadow of the Demon Lord.
Yep.
And I wanted to show off Shadow of the Demon Lord because there's like literally no actual plays of this game. There were some one shots out there in the world. There were some like 2, 3, 4 session things, but I wanted to do a tight like 11 session narrative going from level 0 to level 10, leveling up every session, like super ultra fast paced game where the speed of the leveling mechanic is part of the story. I'm not going to jump too deep into the story of that particular adventure. If you're interested, Atsumori Kofuhara on YouTube, go find it, go watch it. It's amazing. But they were the player characters were cursed by the Demon Lord they were his heralds, right? They didn't really know it, but they were his heralds, and they were gaining power as a function of time. And they needed to figure out how to stop the Demon Lord before he, ripped a hole into reality and stepped in and ruined everything forever.
Typical Demon Lord fashion.
Yeah. But every session they were leveling up. So it was just like I've found that the best campaigns work on a time limit, or have some sort of time constraint. When you don't have a time constraint, your players are going to be lackadaisical. They're going to take their time. They're not going to be in media res. They're not going to be in the zone. They're not going to be, they're not going to be action heroes. I want to run games for action heroes. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. I feel you there. And I love how it's built into the Demon Lord system that level 10, a level up after each adventure, and, you know, quick and easy. You can get done. You finished a campaign over the summer, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So let's talk. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Now, please understand, anybody who's listening to this at home, you don't have to run your campaign as fast as I did. I just wanted to show off every individual. I just wanted to show off the system, really, and fold the speed of that campaign into the narrative itself. But you don't have to run it that way. It's typically one level for each adventure, which is really cool. I mean, it's another form of not experience points by points, but like the words slipping my mind here. Milestone, yes. It's another form of milestone, but it's a form of milestone that I can really get behind. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Same. Speaking of shadows over Waypoint Keep, let's talk a little bit, because I'm going to ask you about all your actual plays and ask this question as well. Do you have, you already told your ideas and inspiration for it, so I don't have to ask that. What are your favorite moments from that campaign?
Ooh. What are my favorite moments from that campaign? Early on, the revelation that TikTok, which was the Clockwork character, actually had a father and a mother. They weren't his actual father and mother, but his father created him, like created his body and prepared the Clockwork body for the integration of the soul, which was done by another person who never got named in the narrative. I kind of left that as an open thread to pull on for future campaigns. Let's see. I really liked Session 0. I definitely put the characters deep into media res. Like, I pulled some ideas from some Pathfinder adventure paths, where they, were in a dream and there was a creature chasing them down and like killing them one by one, and then they wake up and then they're on a table and they're about to get like sacrificed or whatever, and they have to quickly figure out what they're doing and where they're at, and they find they're like neck deep in some what used to be a hospital but is now like a cultist stronghold that's been wrecked by forces unknown. So everything's broken. All the cultists are running around, not even paying attention to the escaping inmates. That was a really good session. The final fight with Galdaroth, the Breaker of Realities, that was good. That was a really, like, I don't want to spoil the plot twists for that particular episode because they're really good, and that was one of the central narratives that just kind of tied up so beautifully in that last episode. But that fight spanned 2 or 3 different maps. Like, they were slipping in and out of reality, fighting each other. For a Shadow of the Demon Lord fight, it was super anime, but it fit. It was really cool.
Oh, I love it. Any regrets from the campaign, or is there anything that you wish you might have done a little bit different?
I only have one real regret from the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign, Shadows of Waypoint Keep. We ended it too quick. Like, it was too condensed. It was too fast. And that was the one complaint that I got from my players. They were all like, yeah, it was a great campaign. It was there, it was there and went. It just went too fast. So my advice for people wanting to run Shadow the Demon Lord or Shadow the Weird Wizard or anything out there, don't level up your players too fast. Let them breathe. Let them, without stillness, movement is meaningless. You know what I mean? So let them breathe. Let the scene breathe. Let them role play. Let them experience each level, and don't, catapult them through the entirety of the campaign. And the reason why I did that was due to a distinct lack of confidence within myself. Believe it or not, I was like, nobody wants to watch this crap. Nobody wants to watch freaking other people play Durgans and Dugans 5th edition. Come on, we're not the top shows out there. Nobody wants to watch this. I'm just gonna do this for, I wanted a short campaign. I wanted 11 sessions in and out. If it sucks, it sucks. If it rocks, great. But I was preparing for it to fail. And that was a mistake. I should not have prepared for it to fail. I should have jumped in whole ass, ready to succeed. I think a weakness in a lot of people in a lot of endeavors is they set themselves up to fail, and they are afraid to succeed. So don't be afraid to succeed.
Dude, so relatable. Same for me for my first Demon Lord campaign. Same thing, same feedback from the players. That's why the second one went up to 21 episodes instead of 11.
Nice. When your players come back to you and they say, that was great, but I wanted more, you did something right. And you've got to capture the moment. You've got to capture that. You got to figure out what worked, and then heat and fold and hammer that and forge it and put it back out there again. You know what I mean?
Agreed, 100%. So, that's not the only actual play you created. What came next? Where did you switch to? What's it called? Tell me more.
So, I took a break for a while. I had done the thing, right? I had ran a campaign for my friends. We had streamed it. It was good. They wanted more, but I was done. I was like, I don't want to soak up my Saturdays every Saturday running and prepping and, doing this campaign thing. But, brother man, the itch was still there. And like I said, I spent over a decade deep into playing Pathfinder 1E. And in that time, I ran and played a lot of adventure paths. The adventure path line, for the people who are listening to this, in Pathfinder 1E, I don't know about 2E, I haven't looked at any of the adventures, but in 1E, some of them are absolute, they're so good. One in particular, the last one they wrote for Pathfinder 1st edition before they switched to 2nd, is called Tyrant's Grasp. And it is, in my opinion, one of their best. Just beautifully written, excellently paced, with some of the hardest hitting narrative turnarounds and plot twists that I have seen written into an adventure, period, in the last 40 years. And I knew, now this is a pre-written adventure, but I had to put this adventure out. People needed to see this. People needed to see this adventure from start to finish. It deserved to be seen. And so I had to run it. But in what system? I didn't want to run Pathfinder 1st edition anymore. Between you and me, in my opinion, I don't really think Pathfinder 1st edition is a particularly good system to run for a streamed campaign. People watch streamed campaigns the same way that, bro dudes watch sports. The game is exciting. Everyone knows the rule set, which I'll get back to here in a second. And it's a common language, right? If I watch football, I can show up to my, work Monday morning and be like, hey guys, how about those Ravens? right? And everybody immediately knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
I needed a game that was slick, that was streamlined, that was easy to understand, that flowed and I knew that the Pathfinder Adventure Path was going to have an absolute ton of combats, because that's just how they're written, right? And even if you have an amazing group like I did, they were able to, if we're going to get into the best moments of this particular campaign, I can't remember what number episode it is. It's like in the mid-20s, early 20s, maybe 23 of the Tyrant's Grasp live play that it did. But they went through an entire dungeon, 0 kills, complete pacifist run.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It deserves to be seen. My players were absolutely legendary. But getting back to what I was saying, like this whole adventure path needed to be seen, but I needed a game that was slick, streamlined, everybody understood it, base D20. I needed crits, I needed high points, I needed low points, and I also needed a way for the people watching to interact. Because that's another thing. Why do people watch streams? People watch streams so that you can interact with them. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of live plays don't do very well, is they don't integrate the audience into the game. So I did my best in order to create boons and banes, which again, I took straight from Shadow of the Demon Lord. Love that mechanic. Where, if they put in, a number of channel points and they put in somebody's name, that person gets a boon on their next D20 roll, or that person gets a bane. You can, due to the old bowls within the hearts of the player characters, they could directly heal the people and keep them going. Because I knew the Pathfinder, converting a lot of Pathfinder monsters into roughly Castles and Crusades stats. But okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. I chose Castles and Crusades for 2 reasons. One, the siege system, which I will get into if you want me to. And because Troll Lord Games is an amazing company. Honestly, one of my favorite gaming companies right now. And they have treated me collectively like an absolute rock star. They have given me the requisite head pats and belly rubs to make me feel special. And so when I'm running a Castles and Crusades game, I don't feel like I'm running in a void. I don't feel like I'm running in a vacuum. I'm running with the backing of an entire company that wants to support me. And pursuant to that, they give me codes that I can give out to the people so that they can, buy a product from the Troll Lord Game store. And they give me, prize support and stuff like that.
That is awesome. Yeah. Amazing. Love to hear it. Love to have the support of the company with you. That's awesome.
Exactly. And speaking humbly here, I'm not a particularly large streamer. I do okay. I average about 20 viewers. And but they don't care. They support me the same way they would support any other content creator, and I think that's amazing. It really does go a long way to making you motivated to want to run the game week after week, month after month, year after year. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can agree with that for sure. Definitely. If I had that kind of support, it would definitely be like fuel to the fire of passion. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked about the last one. Tyrant's Grasp, Castles and Crusades. You finished the whole thing. Were there any regrets or anything you wish you would have done differently during the recording of these sessions?
Now, I need to couch this next statement by saying Tyrant's Grasp, my live play of Tyrant's Grasp, is literally up there in the top 5 best games I've ever ran, period. And I've been running games, like I said, since I was in high school, so over 20 years. And I've run for hundreds, maybe even 1,000 people at this point, between conventions and one-shots and, home games, Pathfinder Society. And I ran Pathfinder Society in a college town. So we were getting new people every semester, every year. You know what I mean? So I've run with a lot of people. And there was just a certain magic about that game where it was the holy trifecta. I call it the holy trifecta. It was an amazing story. The players just gelled. And I had performed exceptionally. All those things were true at once. And that makes for movie magic on the screen. I mean, there were real emotions being felt in a lot of those episodes. Conclusion of book 1 was a big one where they actually talked down the final boss without fighting her. And that was an extremely tense conversation. The revelation at the middle of book 5. The revelation at the end of book 2. Again, I don't want to say anything specific. I don't want to spoil it. It's out there. Go watch it. It's amazing. But let's get to regrets. I said all of that to say regrets. On my end, I did a pretty sloppy job of converting certain magical items, monsters, and mechanics from Pathfinder to Castles and Crusades. Now, these are two very similar systems. I mean, Castles and Crusades, in terms of like power scaling and power creep compared to Pathfinder, is basically if you played a Pathfinder character with no skills and feats. No skills, no feats. That's it. If you took the skills and feats out, that's basically a Castles and Crusades character. They level up, they get their HP, and they get their class abilities. That's it. There was just like, they were finding treasure, and I had one of my weaknesses was I had not converted the treasure from the Pathfinder standard to the CNC standard. So they were starting to get Pathfinder level strength items and spells, and I was letting them delve into the Pathfinder spell lists. So the casters were getting more and more powerful every level when they were getting access to more and more stuff. So that was interesting. And I think I did a pretty good job of converting it and making calls on the fly. But if I wanted to, say, produce this as something that other people could do, then I would have to sit down and write it out and codify it and put it on paper, instead of just relying on my ability to ad-lib on the spot. You know what I mean?
Oh, I can understand. But honestly, that's not too bad of a regret. So that's still good.
I'm reaching here. You have to understand just how wonderful and amazing and perfect that game was. It was so good that I'm scared. Like, how do I even match that? How do I outdo that? Because you know, as a performer, you always want to outdo your last performance, right? And
oh yeah,
the thing about it is, it's code of the streets. You're only as good as your last transaction. You're only as good as your last performance, right? So if your last performance was good and then your next performance isn't as good, that's what you're going to be remembered for. You know, so you constantly want to do more, outdo yourself. And that's a challenge. And one of the ways to get around that is to sever yourself from the need to do that and just focus Focus on the here and now. Make every session your best session. Make the next session your best session. Don't take your ideas and say, ooh, when they get to this spot in this place 5 episodes down the line, you never know when your next session is going to be your last. So make your next session your best session and just work at it one session at a time.
So
you do that, you're going to have a good game.
Yeah, so relatable. I felt the same way as you for my campaigns. Same ideas as well. Hey, I can't wait to get to this. No, screw it. Let's do it next episode, because otherwise, who knows what's going to happen. So, very good advice.
Yeah.
Well, you're currently working on another actual play with the Castles and Crusades. Tell us about the Shrike.
So, I finished Tyrant's Grasp, late May this year? And I was done. Like, I needed a break. I needed a rest. But then, Trollord Grace from Trollord Games, all the people who work from, they're all Trollords. It's, Trollord Chuck, Trollord Grace, that's their naming convention. She put out there that she was putting together a group of Castles and Crusades castle keepers to run summer games. Could be a one-shot, could be like an adventure or a campaign or whatever, but do it under the banner of Summer of Siege. And I'm just like, nah, I was almost out.
And then
you keep
pulled you
pulling me
back
back in. Ah, shit, here we go again.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, all right, what am I going to do? So I was looking around, and I've kickstarted a lot of campaigns that looked really cool, and I thought to myself, this looks really cool. I'm probably never going to run this, but darn it, I've got to have it, right? And one of the ones that I kickstarted was called The Shrike by Leo Hunt, produced by Silver Arm Productions. And if you want, I can just read the back matter for you.
Please, go ahead.
All right. Explore a lost fragment of hell. A modular sandbox adventure setting in an abandoned fragment of hell. A colossal blade dedicated to punishing a nameless god. The Shrike is a heaven-harrowing thorn, a black iron mountain with serrated spires of rock and rust that pierces the heart of the god. Divine blood flows and nourishes strange life within corroded iron and stone megastructure. I mean, that sounds metal as hell,
so
right?
metal.
Right? Dangerously metal. So I was like, okay, look, I need to ratify and make good my purchase by running this adventure. And I have this excuse now. I have this Summer of Siege excuse to run this. So I asked my players, I was like, hey, you want to do it again?
Nice.
You want to play over the summer? And 4 out of 5 of them said yes. Narjali Kane stepped out. He wanted to dedicate the summer to, other things and other pursuits. And believe me, I miss him. He was one of my best players in the Shrike. I mean, in Tyrant's Grasp. And this one was the tenor and the pace of this one was going to be much more open-ended, because the Shrike is not written in the same way as an adventure path is. An adventure path in Pathfinder, not Pathfinder Society, in Pathfinder, in Paizo, it's a plot train. It's a plot train. Choo-choo, jump on the plot train. It's a plot train. Now, some of them are really, really good plot trains, like Tyrant's Grasp, but they're plot trains. This one is much more open-ended. It doesn't even tell you where to start the PCs. It gives you 5 or 6 different ways to be like, how did the PCs get into the Shrike? Right? One of them is they died. Right?
Yeah.
They died and they showed up at the Shrike. Now, again, I don't want to spoil too much about the Tyrant's Grasp, but there is one of the central narrative forces is this thing called the Radiant Fire. And if you think of it like a nuclear superweapon, you're not too far off. One of the places in Galarian, in Last Wall, that got nuked by the Radiant Fire in the Tyrant's Grasp adventure path was a city called Vigil. The player characters that my people are playing in the Shrike are all citizens from Vigil. That's the connection.
Beautiful tie-in.
They were all Vigilites. And they were all bastards. Now you have to understand, Vigil is like Paladin HQ. It's got the Crusader War College. It's got, it's basically a Palatine theocracy. Everybody has a symbol of truth on their palm so that they do not speak falsehood, right? But there were 5 individuals in Vigil that when they died, they weren't exceptional saints. They were not good people. So instead of going to heaven, they went to the Shrike. And that is where their adventure began.
Nice. Nice. I love it. I love it. And I love the tie-in from the previous campaign. That's so cool.
I had to tie it in. It was very easy to do so because the Shrike is a multi-dimensional focal point. Because it's a slice of hell, if you know anything like about the basic understandings of the multiverse, there's multiple verses, there's multiple worlds, but there's one hell serving all of them. So it's no trouble at all for a lost fragment of hell to get to collect people, to collect sinners from multiple worlds, multiple timelines, that sort of thing.
Very cool.
Oh, and speaking of cameos, there is a character that they just met last in the Shrike live play that they just met last session and interacted more with in this session, called Newton Firegut. Newton Firegut is a kobold alchemist from Shadows over Waypoint Keep.
Oh, love the tie-in. All 3. Nice.
Yes. So now there are characters from all 3 adventures within the Shrike.
That's very cool. I love that. I kind of did the same by bringing characters back into Hell. Hell's a great place to meet old acquaintances.
Is it though? Is it really?
Oh, well, you're still ongoing with this one. Any favorite moments currently?
I have to say, the first session, the mood of that session was really, I nailed it in the first session. When they were going through the cove immediately after exploding out of their iron coffins. And then last session was basically the culmination of the narrative arc at that point, where they had faced off against the Archon of Salt. And they had defeated the Archon of Salt. But of course, in anime style, he was a load-bearing boss. And so the entirety of the inside of Leviathan started breaking down. And so they had to scarper out of there and make their escape. And everybody's running around and it's total chaos. And, one of the factions that they had buddied with, ran headed them off the pass and wanted the mask of the Archon so that, Queen Zev-Mebegeb could become the Archon herself. And she took the right mask because they offered her 2 masks. They were like, well, maybe she won't pick the right one. She got the right one. She put it on. And then she made the most important wisdom save in all of her life and rolled a 1.
Oh, no.
So Queen Zev-Mebegeb got schlorped. She got transformed into the former Archon of Salt. And the former Archon of Salt was like, I've got new flesh! New flesh!
Oh,
and
damn.
It was a beautiful moment. I think it was Toasty, Data Toasty 434 is one of my players. I think he said, I think this is the first time we've left a place worse than when we found it.
Beautiful.
I think we left this place worse.
Love that. That's awesome.
And I love that because it means that your players might survive, but they don't always have to win.
True. True.
Your best lessons, your best narrative arcs can come from taking a big L. Look at a really good series for this is Transformers Beast Wars. At the culmination of every season, the good guys lose. Bad. Another one is Reboot. We go back and watch Reboot. One of the big narrative arcs, and I think season 2 is the good guys lose, like really bad. Like, characters die, or we think they die, and there's no like second chances. There's no lessons learned. It's you mess up, you're gone, and that's what happens, right? So don't resist the urge, resist the temptation to baby your players and let them always win. Let them lose. Let the dice tell their story, because I had no idea what was going to happen. I had a general idea of what was going to happen. I knew the Queen Zev Mebageb and her court was going to head him off the pass. I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to come out of that situation. As a dungeon master, as a castle keeper, as a storyteller, you're not a storyteller. You are not a storyteller. Stop trying to tell the story. That's the players. The player's job is to tell you the story. You are the one who forms the narrative around their agency, their choices. Okay? I had no idea that Queens of Mebageb was going to blow it and roll a 1, but I had an idea of what was going to happen if that happened.
Nice. Love it. Good advice.
Let the dice tell their story.
Yes.
Let the dice roll, If you're not letting the dice roll, then we're playing, theater games. We're playing theater games. We're not playing a role-playing game. We're not playing a tabletop adventure role-playing game. Okay? But if you don't have any role play at all, you're playing a board game. You're playing HeroQuest. And I love HeroQuest. HeroQuest is one of my favorite board games, right? But it's a board game. And tabletop role-playing games make for very bad board games. This is the problem you get when you basically run mega dungeons as just, kick down the door, fight the enemy, loot, rinse, lather, repeat, right?
Right.
The tabletop role-playing game that has captured the imagination of, the last 50 years of people is that synthesis between role-playing and tabletop wargaming. It is the synthesis. Do not deny either side.
Agreed, 100%. Now, I know you're still ongoing, and you probably haven't had a chance, and your regrets are pretty minor, but do you have any so far for this campaign?
No, not really. Due to the open-ended nature of the campaign, meaning there's no central narrative, there's no railroad, it is up to me in order to provide plot hooks. And I have to be careful. I have to be vigilant to provide plot hooks that the players are going to want to bite on. Last session was a perfect example where I knew after like that big culmination, that big climax of getting out of the Leviathan, I wanted the first hour or so of the next session to be role play, to be just like, let's ease like falling action into rising action. Let's ease our way into the next narrative. So I invite, I gave them an invite from an imp from Sakar, the maggot of Mammon, to go visit him at the drab market because he understands that they have a lot of scarlet scales of Mammon and he would like to trade. Cool. They get together, they jump into their ship, they start sailing out there, and just on a lark, I asked the sailor of the group, the pilot of the group, I was like, hey, Make me a sailor check. There might be a chance you fail. Character fails. Bad. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess you go off course. So they went off course. So we did not end up, even though I gave them the narrative hook, even though they took the narrative hook, I kind of accidentally got in my own way of completing that narrative hook, that thing that I had prepped for, with that one roll. So my regret is, if you want your players to succeed on a thing, don't gatekeep it behind a roll. Just let them do it. Just let them do it. You've got to strike that balance between like what is a roll? What when we are asking for them a roll, what are we asking? We're asking them that there is a potential to fail at this roll. And D20 systems, large and apart, don't have degrees of success or failure. It's binary. It's pass fail. So you need to, as a DM, be ready for them to fail. Don't ask them to roll for a skill check hoping they'll pass or hoping they'll fail. If you want them to do something, just let them do it. Now, I'm not complaining. This isn't really a regret per se, in a major sense, because they went off course and we had a different adventure and it was great, right? I made it work. But if you want them to go in a different direction, don't punish them for going in that direction, basically.
Oh, yeah, more great advice. I've found myself doing that as well, regretting, I shouldn't have made them roll. That was wrong. But yeah, good advice. Follow that advice. Great stuff, Atsu.
Yeah.
Well,
these are just the things that you learn through repetition, I equate the skill of being a dungeon master to weight training. You're not going to walk into a gym on the first day and, bench 400 pounds or deadlift 500 pounds. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Right? You've got to get to it through reps. You got to put the reps in. You got to put the hours in. You got to put the time in. And the best way, is my last piece of advice. The best way to get better at DMing is DMing. You can go on YouTube and you can watch all the how-tos in the world until you're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. DMing is a very kinesthetic activity, just like martial arts. And I'm a martial artist by trade. I'm the Karate Catman VTuber, So you want to get better at karate? Do karate. Do lots of karate. You want to get better at tabletop wargaming or tabletop running the game? Run the game. Run lots of games. And I think my skill, my little iota of skill that I possess comes from 10 years of running thousands of hours of games, and they weren't all bangers. I've crapped out a couple myself. I've crashed and burned, but I never gave up, and I kept trying, and I kept identifying what worked, what didn't, what am I going to do better next time. Keep running games. Run more games.
I cannot agree more. That's what I say. You get Dungeon Master experience points every time you run a game. And a successful game will give you some experience points, and sadly to say, an unsuccessful game will probably give you a lot more experience points.
That actually reminds me of a tabletop system where the only way to get better at your skills is to fail a certain amount of times.
Oh yeah, Powered by the Apocalypse usually has that, like Dungeon World. Yep. You get XP when you fail your rolls.
Yep, yeah. It's one of the few things about Powered by the Apocalypse that I actually like.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense and very flavorful.
Indeed.
I think that about wraps up our little chat about your experience and the actual plays themselves. So I'd like to move over to the final segment, Show and Tell.
The lightning round. Oh, Show and Tell. Okay.
All right, Atsu, tell us about this clip here.
Okay, so this is a clip from August of last year. So in August of last year, I did like a free play gaming month where for the entirety of the month of August, I streamed free games that people could play. Because times are tough. Times are tough. And I wanted to show that there were some really good games out there that were just out there for free, legal, everything's good, you can just play them. And I capped it off by running a game of Castles Crusades because the 7th printing of Castles and Crusades is free on their website. You can download it right now, trollordgames.com. And I really liked Castles and Crusades. I wanted to run a game of it. My friends were chomping at the bit. They wanted to, play another game with me. I was like, let's do a one-shot. So we put this together, and this is one of the resulting clips from that adventure.
All right, let's roll that beautiful footage.
Oh, Lordy, here we go.
Hey, man, it's okay. I think I can flip this guy.
Boris, when you crash through the door, the cook looks up to you and he's like, "Hey, you gonna pay for that door, human?" Human?
Yeah, human.
Well?
Health inspector.
Oh, shit! He immediately snaps the book, hands it to Gorg, and just starts like knocking shit off the tables like, "Oh shit, fuck, oh god!" he shoves his cauldron over.
I just adjust my glasses, stand up, dust myself off. I did not see him wash his hands once.
Boris just puts his axe back in the loop.
Net.
He gets out his chalk, licks it, and just starts making notes without breaking eye contact.
Because shit, oh fuck, I'm so fat. He told me he wasn't coming for another month.
Hey. It's okay. But your delivery of bone stock is out there and it's killing the guards. You gotta go deal with that. Your ingredients are in disarray.
Sounds like the bone stock getting uppity. Get out of my way.
It is okay.
Get out of my way. Come on.
I will be documenting your process. Pretend I'm not here.
I've got good players, man. I'm truly blessed in a way that is hard to describe. Words fail me when I think about my players and how fortunate I am to have attracted some amazing people to my games.
Another point I can relate to. I tell my players all the time that I am blessed for they are based.
Well said.
I was going to show off some artwork, but here's a little preview of the artwork, which I freaking love. Tell us about this little scenario here.
Okay, so I'm running this Tyrant's Grass game, and it's getting pretty good, but I felt like we need a bit of a filler episode, a bit of a side quest. Also, I wanted to do some highly experimental content. I was kind of feeling myself. And so, in short, I wanted to run a mass combat and see if I could actually pull it off live on stream. And this episode 11, is the result of that. I ran an entire mass combat with, I think, over 100 participants within the space of maybe an hour and a half for 5 rounds of combat, which sounds like it was a really slow game, but it moved pretty quickly in production.
Yeah, that sounds wild. Well, let's take a little snippet of this for a moment and check it out.
All right. Well, as you crest the hill and head into the area with the towers, you find that you are in between a rock and hard place.
Oh, hold up. How far away are we when we notice them at first?
I'd say maybe about 700 feet or so.
Okay. When we first observe them, I will ask Par. When you say a show of force, do you mean a demonstration or like a test? I'm asking you if I should be ending lives.
See, it's finicky. I mean, if you kill a few of them and they break, good for us. But if you kill a few of them and then they rally, we're fucked.
Okay. If I do nothing, are we just as fucked as if they rally?
It depends on what they want from us.
Okay. Now there's nuance again. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
I'm sorry. This is a nuanced situation.
No. I know more now than I did 20 seconds ago. I have nothing bad to say about your information. But if a fireball would help us...
Let me give you an idea of what they're facing. Do you see all that? See the unit up here, the 2 units over here, the unit over here who's mounted on a ballista. We got some snipers. We got some cavalry.
Put a decent amount of time into figuring out the stats
fireball
of these individual monsters.
I'm a cast something.
Holy hell, that must have been crazy to run.
It was, but it was exhilarating. It was amazing.
And what's Toasty trying to do with some magic here, lining up all those units?
Oh, Toasty's gonna flood them. I forget the name of the spell precisely, but it is a CNC spell where basically just like water bends, lays down an entire river of water right there, and if they fail the save, they get swept up in the river and just basically drown. If they pass, they stay where they're at and take damage.
I bet you that turned the tide of battle.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. Had Toasty not like hit him with that alpha strike right then and there, I think things would have gone a lot worse for them.
Now, continuing one final thing, because I wanted to share, and I want you to share as well, the image, the character art, because I freaking love the art of those of your characters for that campaign. What do we have here?
So this is the promo that I used for, I think, the first book. So the first 5 or 6 episodes of Tyrant's Grasp. I used my my model for me, but the character art here is done by Electric Glacier herself, one of my players. And going from left to right, we've got Kithla over here playing Matt Levinson, human paladin. We have Joslo as Tyr, the human thief. We have Relikia, played by Electric Glacier, and she is a kobold arcane thief. Very interesting class. Let's see, Nigel Arcane played Evie Motto, human cleric, and that Toasty 434 played Catherine Odina, human divine knight. We had 4 humans, and then Glacier.
And that's usually the opposite of a normal party.
Yeah, so interesting thing. I love running, human-centric adventures. I have some hot, spicy takes about how people basically play any, race that they pick is just, a palette-swapped human. They don't really get into character. It's all the same. It's all a Grey Goo mess. Blah, blah, blah. But, so, Castles and Crusades fixes this by giving humans one of the best powers ever, right? You know how most D20 games don't really do anything with the human, like, oh, they get an extra feat, or, they can do any class at any level.
Right.
Well, that's boring. Nobody cares.
So in Castles and Crusades, you have what's called primary abilities. Most people get 2. Humans get 3. And your primary abilities, the DC for all of your primary ability checks starts at 12. Everything else starts at 18. So if you were playing my game and I asked you to make a charisma check, and that's your primary stat, we already know that the base DC for it is 12 for you. Now, I might add an additional difficulty bonus on top of that if this is a particularly difficult check, and that modifier usually ranges from 1 to 10, unless you're talking about high-level games, or is equal to the hit dice of the creature that you're facing off against, depending on what you're doing. But it takes... That was one of the reasons why CNC was so easy to run as a streamlined game, as a live play, because I didn't have to think about I didn't have to think about difficulty checks. That's their job, right?
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I did not know that was the mechanic. I just always assumed it was basically a 3rd edition retro clone.
So CNC was created in 2004 as a response, I would say, to 3rd edition, and it was done originally as part of the OGL. We used the OGL license. They have since gotten away with that, got turned away from that with the new Reforged edition. But the core mechanic of the game has not changed in 20 years. It is called the Siege system. You have primary abilities and you have secondary abilities. Primary abilities start at 12, secondary abilities start at 18. Boom, done. We already know what the DC is for every check. It's that easy.
Nice.
Alternatively, there's an alternative rule in the Castle Keeper's Guide where you can just set all DCs at 18, but if it's a primary ability, you get a plus 6 to the roll. You know, user mileage may vary. Some tables like that. Some tables like the different DCs. I run it with the different DCs because that's how the character sheets on Roll20, which is the VTT that I use, that's how it handles it. So easier to keep it at 12 and 18 for me.
Very cool. Very cool. Kind of like, Demon Lord, Weird Wizard. Most of the DCs are 10, so you always know. I like that. Static DCs.
Yeah.
It makes things easier.
Isn't that great?
Love it.
And then you manipulate that DC in Shadow of the Demon Lord by boons and banes.
Exactly. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Hell yeah.
Well, Atsu, I think that about wraps up our dialogue here. I want to thank you again so much for joining me for this interview.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor.
The honor's all mine. It may have accidentally got cut, but I want to say kindred spirits, you and I, we share a lot in common.
Truly.
Any parting words before you leave?
Play more games. Get out there, play more games, run more games. Don't be afraid to fail, because you might just succeed.
Wise words, wise words. Thank you again for joining me, Atsu. You can find links to Atsumori's YouTube and Twitch channels in the description below. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I really appreciate it.